All right, good evening. I want to call to order the regular council meeting here on Monday, October 3rd, 6:30 p.m. We are in the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex at Council Chambers. Also, we are aired on Zoom and Facebook, and I see our friends from CHCO Television are also here. So thank you to all that's in attendance, and let's do the recording of attendance for council. I see that all members of a council are here, with the exception of Councillor Hurdle, and Councillor Heenan is joining us virtually. Thanks for joining in, Councillor Heenan. As well, I wanted to recognize that we're in the unceded traditional territory of the Beskoto-Mogati people. And as well, let's get into the approval of the agenda. Could I have a mover, please? I'm looking to the right first for once, guys. Councillor Blanchard, seconded by Councillor Gumashel. Any changes to the agenda? Councillor Blanchard?
And this could be something to add to the agenda, but I wanted to just wanted to have a brief discussion on water quality down at Katie's Cove. And if I'm just wondering about water testing, if I could have just a brief conversation on that. And that came from the Environmental Advisory Committee.
Sure, I'll put that under new business and as an opportunity to answer those questions. It is noted it's not really an amendment because closed session is listed, but we will be going into closed session under Local Governance Act Section 68(1)C and 68(1)J. Any other changes or anything from anyone? Seeing none, so I'll call the I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving this agenda, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. The agenda has been approved. Disclosure of conflict of interest. Any this evening? Seeing none. If anything comes up throughout the evening, please let me know. So we're moving right into presentation. I see that we've got Harold Wright joining us, who is the chair, and it's in regards to the 250 St. John Wing Royal Canadian Air Force Association presentation on Penfield Ridge Centennial Memorial Park. I had the opportunity to be in Penfield for a service or ceremony just 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. I really appreciate the invitation along with other mayors in the region, and had the opportunity to meet Harold. So if you'd like to come forward, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship, councillors. I have a few members of our group. We are proposing for 2024, which is the centennial of the Royal Canadian Air Force, to establish an Air Force Memorial Park. We now own 1 acre of the former Penfield Ridge Airport. So what we'd like to do, if you'd like to watch the screen, I'm going to try to have my left and right hand and my mouth all coordinate with the screen. I did tell your clerk that we've actually revised this as of midnight last night, so I'll send the new revision to you. So if we can go to the next slide. We have been holding memorial services at Penfield Ridge in 2006. 250 Wing was one of the original investors, groups involved with that, right up to Mayor Brad a few weeks ago, as you can see in the slide. Our group is composed of 2 organizations, 250 St. John Wing Royal Canadian Air Force Association and the Untitled Chapter of the Canadian Aviation Historical Society. Untitled Chapter is a registered charity, so they will be handling the finances. Our treasurer, Greg Boudreau, a.k.a. St. Nicholas, Santa Claus, for all those in St. John would recognize him. If we go to the next slide, Paul. So Penfield Ridge, as I'm sure you know, a major training base during the Second War for the airmen of 4 different air forces: the Royal Canadian Air Force, the Royal Air Force, the Royal Australian Air Force, and the Royal New Zealand Air Force. But sadly, if we go to the next slide, I think we have 70 men who died training by accidents, disease at that airport, and we want to make sure that they are remembered in perpetuity. This is not a war memorial. This is an Air Force memorial for those men. As I said, 2024 is the anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force, 100 years. And we were looking at sometime between May and August of 2024. We may lean towards August because that's also when the Dominion Command of the Royal Canadian Legion will be having their national convention in St. John. And we'd like to make this as part of that celebration, that convention. If we go to the next slide. So what we're looking at doing, and although we are from St. John in our name, and this is up in Penfield, this is a Charlotte County project. This is much yours, as you know as well as I do. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of residents of the St. Andrews area and surrounding communities who served in the Air Force over the last 100 years and may still do today. So what we're looking at is 3 granite slabs. We'd like to use red granite from St. George, but they don't have any anymore. No such thing. But we do want to recognize granite as the main industry historically for Charlotte County. So all will be named. And then at the very top, you may recognize there's a little hand. That hand actually will be made out of red granite. We do have a piece of red granite. And that will be the actual hand of a man who served at Penfield during the Second War and later with the Royal Canadian Air Force Reserve. We have his, well, we have a measuring of his hand. We don't have his hand. He still has it. And we'll have a line from the Royal Canadian Air Force sonnet from High Flight, where reached out my hand and touched the face of God, because this is to make sure these men are not forgotten. If I could have the next slide. So, Acadian Seed Plant, they did give us 1 acre of land, and also all the costs associated with that transfer. So it's a sizable contribution to our project. And that was, we call it the soft opening on August 24th. We had a meeting with the St. John MLAs. I think all of them are in cabinet, actually. And we gave them our presentation, our ask for money. And I can say we had an extremely positive reception from the province of New Brunswick. So if we go to the next slide, I think this is the announcement. And these are the 2 panels that you see here in front of you, much larger version. And what we want to do is make sure that the park is far enough back, or the monument at the very back of the property, so we have a large buffer zone with the road, because we want the kids to be able to also use that piece of land as maybe a recreational area, an area of contemplation, but also it's going to be an area of lots of blueberries. If we go to the next slide, I think will be a detail of one. Everything that we do in this park has symbolism to either the memorial itself, and I'll give you just a couple. The 3 tablets of granite will be in a triangular shape, which will be the exact triangular shape of the runways. Anybody hockey fans here? You know what happened a number of years ago when, I think it was an Olympic game? The Canadians took the loonie and put it underneath center ice, which we still do. We're going to be putting Remembrance Day toonies under these slabs. We're going to have a time capsule in the center of those 3 slabs. And all of our funding partners, and hopefully the town of St. Andrews, will be able to put a memento of those communities, those businesses, in that time capsule. I'm not going to go into the details of how we come up with the name, the flight of coins, but we're going to make sure that every student in Charlotte County will have the opportunity to donate a nickel, dime, quarter, a loonie, or a toonie, because this is for them. So we want to make sure that their contribution is just as important. And we've actually come up with a series of funding categories, and the bottom one is from a nickel to 99 bucks, and we'll call it the student pilot patron category for the students. If I could go to the next slide. The cultural component will be things like, we need solar lights. We want to make sure that everything is as maintenance-free and as permanent as possible. So we'll go after NB Power, St. John Energy, maybe a solar company to either provide the funds to buy it or to give us the lights. We can put park benches, and you could be in the memory of Motorcycle Charlie, for example. We'll have a series of interpretive plaques, as you see here. Now, these are all St. John examples, but the interpretive plaques will be in a center around the monuments, and they will tell the stories of the communities of Charlotte County, the businesses of Charlotte County, the aviation heritage of Charlotte County. You may have heard of the famous American aviator, named Amelia Earhart. Everyone seemed to know that name. But the most famous, other than by name, is Captain James Mollison. He was the first one to fly across the Atlantic Ocean from east to west against the wind, very technically difficult, and of course he landed in the blueberries field of Penfield. So it has and it was the St. John Airport until 1951. So there's a big connection. If we go to the next slide. So this is our budget. In the initial letter to you, we had $259,000, but from August to now, we upped it. We did 2 major things. First, we included a 10% contingency, because prices will rise. But as or more importantly, will establish a minimum of a $50,000 trust fund with the Fundy Community Association so that there will be money to take care of in the maintenance. And any money that is left over from our budget of doing this will go into that trust fund to beef up. And it'll be set up in such a way that if you want to make a small contribution, that's great also. We have all the different funding categories, I believe, to the right, and every airplane that's there, that's listed, all has significance to New Brunswick aviation heritage, from the CF-18 Hornet. So if you want to become a Hornet, you only have to write us a check for $100,000. If you don't want to be a Hornet and you want to be a student pilot, $99. New Brunswick, we have, St. John has 410 City of St. John Squadron. They train all of our fighter pilots. So our aviation history with the Air Force is as current as today. And that's what we want this park to be, not just about 50, 60, 70 years ago, but make it relevant to today. I think that might be the last. Nope. Okay, we have a committee of 10 people. You see some of them here. All of us, we have 40, 50 experience in veterans history, Air Force history, park development, memorial parks, etc. So a lot, and this has taken us 4 years to get to where we are now. So we have the rest of this year and next year and part of 2024 to get this all ready. So yes, we would like you to make a contribution. We're not going to say what for. You'll get all the information if you feel that this is something that you'd like to contribute to. But I will tell you that we will be coming back to all the schools of Charlotte County, and we're going to be asking your students to make a contribution too. And I think that might be the last slide. Yes. So I'm open for questions.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for the presentation. In addition to the funding request, it's good to also draw awareness. So I appreciate you bringing that project to our community so people are aware of the effort in order to remember those 70 Air Force members. Before I open it up to council for questions, just a question for you. I understand this is your first presentation to any council, is that correct?
You are number one. We went to council, or the St. John, do you mind if I?
Yeah. Actually, it'd be good if you're there because Councillor Heenan won't hear you as much as.
Hi. We went to the St. John MLAs this morning, just because of the timing. Fortunately, they've been very supportive. So they didn't say, here's the check, but we had an extremely, extremely positive reception, and we did ask for a very large sum of money.
Perfect.
So we may get it all, we may get part of it. But you are the first council.
Perfect.
We will ask to go to St. George and Blacks Harbor also, and to St. Stephen.
Perfect. So as far as looking for support, I think you're fairly flexible with the amount, but you're also pretty flexible with the timing. The reason I say that is because our budget's kind of been established for this year, and then we're about to go through budget process for next year, which means that we could incorporate if council of the day, which would be these members plus 3 new ones that we're getting, decide to do anything, I guess you could say, above, like a minor donation, then that would be something that would normally be included in budget conversation. I was wondering, was there a particular time? Or are you open to, any time within the next 6 months is still fine?
Any time within the next 12 months, actually.
Okay, perfect.
Because we're phasing this over that time period because we don't want it to be finished. We don't want to be able to unveil those the 3 granite markers, although they may be technically finished, but they won't be in place until literally the last moment, so that we can unveil them during a significant period in 2024. Perfect. And if you say that, yes, we'd like to make a contribution, but it will be not until September, then we can be confident that there's X dollars that will come, and that gives us the confidence to proceed.
Perfect. Any other member of council have any questions? Okay, I'm seeing none. I really appreciate you coming in. So generally what happens is when we have a presentation, we don't decide on the spot. We usually take it away and have a further conversation, another council meeting to give council an opportunity to digest it, as well as maybe follow up with anyone they might have questions after the fact. I have your email, so if any member of council or staff has questions, I'll put them directly in contact with you. But appreciate you all coming in and making us aware of the project. And the other thing is I note that there's some veterans here, so I just want to say thank you for all that you do as well. We certainly appreciate that and recognize that. See another gentleman like to add a question or a comment?
Yeah, Treasurer.
Thank you, Harold.
I do advise the different people or organizations that should you require a tax receipt, make it out to the Canadian Aviation Historical Society. It goes to our head office in Ottawa, and they cash it and send the money to us, and they issue the tax receipt. If a tax receipt is not required, then the money can come directly to us, and we just put it in the bank to, to work with.
That's good information, as there may be members of the public that see this presentation and may need that applicable information as well, so.
And you can, even if it's a tax receipt is required, you can be mailed to us, but just make sure you note that tax receipt is required so that we can forward it on to Ottawa.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, and thanks once again for the
May
invite.
I ask Counselor a question?
Absolutely.
Do any of you, or actually anyone here in the room, do any of you have any relatives or ancestors that served in the Air Force? Oh, so one really great guy. Excellent. Well, if you wouldn't mind providing that, again, this is the historian in me. I always like to make connections. And this year and next year and the following year, it's all Air Force related. Okay, thank you.
Thanks again, appreciate it. All right. And if you want to stick around for this entire council meeting, I ask all the time. Otherwise, we'll give you a moment if you wanted to leave, because I understand that this isn't exciting for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again. All right, so we're going to get into the approval of the minutes from previous meeting. Normally I fly through them, but there's only 2 sets, so I'll slow it down for this sake. The first would be the minutes of the 220906 regular council meeting of council, which is Tuesday, September 9th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Could I have a mover to accept those minutes? We've got Deputy Mayor Akaji and seconded by, I'm going to go to the screen actually, Councillor Heenan. We're going to give him one. Any changes to those minutes or anything noticed? Okay. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye, Your Worship.
That is everybody. They have been carried. And the next one are the minutes of the 2209-20 regular council meeting, which was Tuesday, September 20th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Once again, I'm looking for a mover. I'm looking to my right, Councillor Gumichelle, and still looking to my right, Councillor Neal. Any discussion on those minutes? Okay.
Sorry,
Councillor
just worship.
Blanchard?
I'm just gonna, you don't typically ask if anyone abstains. I wasn't here for that meeting, so I'll abstain from voting on the minutes because I wasn't.
Sure. So duly noted by Mr. Nopper. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And that's everybody, so those ones have been approved with exception of Councillor Blanchard, who did not vote on them. Communications, so I do have a few. Let me just jump ahead to them quickly. The first is from Arlene Mortensen, which is Decoding Dyslexia in New Brunswick. She is participating with Dyslexia Canada to support dyslexia awareness during the month of October. She, along with Decoding Dyslexia New Brunswick, would like to request support in raising awareness of the 15 to 20% of our population living with dyslexia. For the many kids struggling with dyslexia, due to the lack of awareness of the disability, they lack the support needed for them to learn to read, write, and spell with their peers and successful in school and life. In recognition of the International Dyslexia Awareness Month, they're asking cities across Canada to light their city hall or other available buildings in red for one day during the 5th annual Market Red for Dyslexia campaign. So just wanted to share that. I did talk to town staff, and they will light it up red. I don't think we need a formal motion for that. I've got a question from Councillor Blanchard.
Yeah, no, and I have a friend who is part of this campaign as well, and she reached out to me. They're suggesting October the 20th for the 20% of people who are who have dyslexia, been diagnosed with dyslexia. So I'd make that suggestion that we choose October the 20th.
Okay, that seems to get a nod from Mr. Nopper. That seems to work for us, so we will put that forward for October 20th. Thank you for that. I wasn't aware of that specific date, so that's good to know. And the next communication would be regards to the St. Andrews Community Tennis Association. Jenny Ledwell submitted an update to us, so she just put that As we approach the end of September, activity at the courts is beginning to wind down. The members are still making good use of the courts when weather allows. A dedicated group are still playing regularly. A number of the SACTA members have returned to their out-of-province homes, which has an impact on the numbers that are currently available to play. Planned events, though, were all completed with great participation. We recognize that the work was done by a small group of members who always step up to ensure their events are successful. The 14th Annual Tennis NB Masters Tournament had a good entry of 56 players. They had some positive comments from those taking part on the organization and the hospitality. The Junior Skill Camp was held, which is the first for 2 years. The youngsters enjoyed learning and improving their tennis skills. And then the committee also wanted to recognize the input from council. Prompt action is taken when there's any question in regards to the condition of the courts, to deal with any other requests, and having the use of the portable toilet at the courts has been very much appreciated. Their annual general meeting is November 5th. So that takes care of communications, and we'll move right on at this point to staff reports. So I'll pass it over, as always, to our CAO, Mr. Chris Beer.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Your Worship. Council, on behalf of the staff, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present the ongoing affairs of the town of St. Andrews. Under Council, during Thanksgiving weekend, the annual UMNB conference will be taking place in Fredericton. This brings mayors and councillors from across New Brunswick together to discuss current challenges and opportunities with like-minded officials. Most of the council and the CAO will be attending sessions on housing, municipal Indigenous relations, and municipal reform. Many of the attendees are from smaller towns like St. Andrews, so the discussions are very relevant to us and provide some needed insight. There is a lot of interest in the proposed development on Water Street by Bridle Path, Inc. The first step is to amend the secondary municipal plan, which would allow this project to have a fourth story that is set back from the first three. If council decides to go through with the third reading of the amendment, then the next step would be to implement a development scheme bylaw. This bylaw gives council considerable leeway in managing various components of the project, including the aesthetic look, parking requirements, any studies that may be needed, and other requirements that may be appropriate. This process is very transparent and requires 3 readings of the bylaw, a public presentation, views of the Planning Advisory Committee, and a public hearing of objections. As this council has worked through various developments since being elected, council now wants to review heritage protection and what that should look like locally. The secondary municipal plan was initiated by the previous council and provides some protection for the streetscape of the historical business district. However, it does not have the tools to fully protect specific properties or regulates what renovations on heritage buildings can encompass or the total demolition of those properties. Council is taking its turn in reviewing the pros and cons of a heritage bylaw and what that would mean. If they decide to start the process, it is tightly regulated by a provincial act and requires a separate committee from council and in-depth public consultation. Most residents agree that the heritage look of the town is an overall defining characteristic of our community and would like to ensure that it stays that way indefinitely. The budget process is on its head with local government reform this year. Instead of council being the decision maker, a local committee consisting of representatives from St. Andrews, Bayside, and Shamcook will review and provide comments on the staff and facilitator prepared budget. As we go through the steps, it is sometimes convoluted because of contracts and costs that do not align perfectly with the new municipal boundaries and need to be sorted out by the local service district manager and staff within the Department of Local Government. Under administration, with the upcoming election for the new wards of Shamcook and Bayside in November, staff are planning a candidates information session on October 5th from 7 to 8. This session is to educate potential candidates on what being a councillor would look like, time commitment, responsibilities, and so on. Currently, it is planned for the Bayside Community Center and will provide an opportunity for a few questions on what being in local government is all about. Once the nominating period is closed, we will see if we can assist a community partner in a Meet the Candidates night before the election. There are lots of questions within the community regarding the effect of the watershed based on the proposed post-boat facility by Kelly Cove Salmon. To do our own due diligence, we have asked a consultant to review the project and technical submissions by the proponent to provide advice on the environmental risk associated with the proposal and communicate any concerns, if any, we should have. The water bills will be issued later this month. We have 2 new staff who have only gone through 1 run and a whole bunch of new dwellings and house transfers that will need to be reviewed to ensure all the proper billings are made. Utility staff will be coming around over the next couple of weeks to conduct readings on the higher volume meters. Unless the weather changes plans, we're scheduled to have 3 visits for the Pearl Mist this month, and 1 including this Sunday, and the tall ship Neo Trinidad is coming this weekend. We are grateful for the consideration by the companies for making us part of their itinerary. Although passed on September 20th, I would like to welcome Will Kernaham to the staff as the Manager of Recreation. He'll be reaching out to community organizations to introduce himself and begin the process of creating an inventory and drafting a master plan that will include community input and council approval. The sale of leaf bags has already begun, and we are transitioning from plastic bags to paper collection bags. The plastic bags required significant handling, as once they arrived at the leaf dump, Public Works would tear them open, dump the leaves, and then the bags ended up in the landfill. The new bags can be dumped as is, compressed, and will decompose on site. The operations manager has been busy getting the ice plant ready for the winter season. We ordered various components, including a new compressor and refurbishments in the spring, but some have just been started by the subcontractor in mid-September, so it is a bit of a scramble for staff. We are also preparing the town for winter, asphalting a few of the more damaged roads, and dealing with the leaves on our own property. The Van Horn Trail extension is now underway along Cemetery Road and the closed-up portion of Brandy Cove Road. Those will be completed this fall, and we will continue with the next phase next year. With the cost of housing increasing fairly significantly over the last few years, the Southwestern New Brunswick Commission is taking the lead on bringing stakeholders together and hosted a housing symposium on September 29th to delve into creating more housing opportunities in the region. The fire chief reminds us that Fire Prevention Week is October 9 to 15th. It's also a good time to remind you, for those that are still burning wood, please get your chimneys properly cleaned out. We seem to have a handful of fires every winter that are preventable. A note of appreciation to big brothers, big sisters of Kings, Queens, and Charlotte counties who are collaborating with staff at the youth center to put on the Propel program. This program is aimed at high school members to learn how to do job applications, interviews, and provides tours of workplaces to educate them on various trades and professions that can become careers. The town hosted a tour in August for Propel summer students from St. Andrews and St. John, highlighting municipal careers. In conclusion, Indulge Weekend is coming up, and I guess Pumpkin Fest was just this past weekend at Kingsbury Gardens. We are grateful for the organizers of all these events who provide the community social events later in the season and opportunities for the tourism sector to bring in more customers. On behalf of staff, I wish to wish council and residents a happy Thanksgiving and remind you we always appreciate your comments and questions at Town Hall. Respectfully, Chris Spear, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Any questions by any member of council in regards to the staff reports? Okay, seeing none, can I have a mover to accept the staff report as presented? I've got Councilor Blanchard and seconded by Deputy Mayor Akagi. All in favor of accepting the staff reports, please signify by saying aye.
Aye, Your Worship.
Those are all submitted. Thank you very much, Council, and accept it. So we are jumping right into the introduction, consideration, and passing of bylaws and motions. This is the latest agenda I've seen in my 6.5 years, I believe, which I'm not complaining. So we're going to jump first to business, tourism, heritage, and culture. Councillor Hurdle is away, and I heard Councillor Neal say he didn't have to read tonight, so I'll pass it over to him. He can take the spot of Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is BTHC 221004, and the subject is Bylaw 22-05, a bylaw of the Town of St. Andrews to impose a special business improvement levy, first reading. The background reads, as part of downtown beautification initiatives, the St. Andrews Business Improvement Area collects an annual levy from its members to pay for various projects and events. The BIA, established in 1984, is a geographical area between Water Street from Princess Royal Street to Elizabeth Street. All businesses within this area are within the BIA and subject to the annual levy. As per the Business Improvement Act of New Brunswick, council must set the levy annually by bylaw, which also includes approval of their budget and a public hearing of objections. The public hearing of objections requires a 2-week notification period and a 15-day response period after the final notification. The date of the public hearing of objections will be Monday, November 7th, 2022. So the motion reads that council grants leave for first reading of bylaw 22-05, a bylaw of the town of St. Andrews to impose a special business improvement levy for 2023 in the town of St. Andrews, and I will so move.
Great job, Councillor Neal. Seconder for that one. Looking at the screen here, Councillor Heenan. All right, and this one is a little bit of housekeeping that's required every year in order to pass it, but any discussion on this one? Councillor Gumichel.
A question, Your Worship. Just wondering about the boundaries of the BIA. I notice some new businesses popping up around the traditional boundaries of the BIA. I'm wondering if they shouldn't be included with the business association, both on King Street, further down on Water Street, and either end. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Good comment. I have had conversations with them in the past. I think Mr. Spear has as well, but the BIA they kind of feel good in the geography that they have. They don't seem to have much of a desire to change that. Would that be safe to say? If there was ever a request, though, I'm sure council would entertain it, but the committee itself has never requested any changes to their boundaries. So,
Thank you, Worship. I would think as if I had a business outside of the traditional business district, if I wanted historical lights and things like that, I'd want to contribute and be seen to be a part of that. I don't know if we couldn't poll them or what, but I think any expansion of our business district would be a good move for the town. Thank you, Worship.
well, Councilor Gubichal, I do sit on that committee, so I'll bring that forward to them at their next meeting if you'd like, just for a suggestion for future consideration. Does that work for you?
So long as I don't have to attend the meeting. Thank you,
No.
Worship.
It's not bad. They only meet 4 or 5 times a year, so don't be afraid of it. Okay, thank you, Councilor Gubichal. Any other comments? Okay, I just wanted to personally myself add that they sponsor a lot of events in the community, but they also do things like beautifying the downtown, to Councilor Gumichal's point, like the town flowers, or for example, that hang on all the light posts are made possible by them, and it's quite an investment to actually buy them, but it's even bigger investment to maintain them. So there's a lot of things that they do quietly in the community, and Dale Chambers, I think, has been their chair for, I don't know, a decade. It's been a while, so I just wanted to say how much I appreciate all of their committee, but also all of the businesses that contribute to that particular fund to help beautify the downtown. So could I have, at this time, I'll call the question. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. That's
Aye, Your
everybody.
Worship.
So that has been approved. I'll skip ahead now to it, and we will read it. So this is the Town of St. Andrews bylaw number 22-05, a bylaw for the Town of St. Andrews to impose a special business improvement levy pursuant to Section 5.1 of the Business Improvement Areas Act, SRNB 2014 102, be it enacted by the Council of the Town of St. Andrews as follows. Number 1, that a special business improvement tax shall be levied for the calendar year 2023 on all non-residential property within the business improvement area of the town, said area having also been designated in the Town of St. Andrews bylaw number 72, enacted on June 4th, 1984. The second one is that the special business improvement tax for the calendar year 2023 shall be at the rate of 20 cents on each $100 assessment of real property being the non-residential property in the business improvement area. It has been read the first time, the 3rd day of October 2022. Thank you very much. Would we, traditionally, would we set the hearing of objections at this point as well? So
Your Worship, there is a motion for
there's
that.
a second one. Okay, I missed. Oh, there it is right there. Go ahead. Next motion, Councillor Neal.
The council sets the date of Monday, November 7th, 2022 at 6:30 PM at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex, Council Chambers, for a public hearing of objections to bylaw 22-05, a bylaw to impose a special business improvement levy for 2023 in the Town of St. Andrews, and I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. A seconder for the hearing, that's Deputy Mayor Akaji. Discussion on this one? Okay, call the question. All in favor of setting this date for hearing of objections, please signify by saying aye.
Aye, Your Worship.
That's everybody. That date has been set, and that will take us out of business, tourism, heritage, and culture. We're now moving to planning and economic development. Councillor Heenan, I don't know if you've got your package in front of you.
I do.
All
See?
right, we'll
Well
pass it
prepared.
over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. It's reference number PED 221007. Amendment MP 20-02-02 to the secondary municipal plan MP 20-02 for PID 15210-289 lot on Carlton Street for Mary Trumer. The town of St. Andrews has received an application for an amendment to the secondary municipal plan PID 15210-289, a lot on Carlton Street between Elizabeth Street and Edward Street for Mary Trumer. The applicant is seeking to construct a 30 by 40 two-story Cape Cod style single unit dwelling. Due to the size of the lot and the massive massing and scale, an amendment would be required to the secondary municipal plan to allow the build on the lot. Please see the attached staff report from Mr. Gopin, Senior Planner, on the proposed amendment. Required to complete the amendment process: public presentation, first reading, public hearing of objections, obtain views of the Planning Advisory Committee, second reading, and third reading. The first step in this process is to set a date for the public presentation. This requires 14 days of notification to the public as per Community Planning Act. The motion, Your Honor, or Your Worship, is that Council sets the date of Monday, October 17th at 7 p.m. or immediately following public hearing of objections through a public meeting for public presentation as per Section 25(1) of the Community Planning Act on the amendment of MP 20-02-02 to the Town of St. Andrews Secondary Municipal Plan MP 20-02 for PID 15210-289, Mary Truman, to be exempt from any policy or proposal in the secondary municipal plan. Your Worship, I so move this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Heenan. Could I have a seconder for that particular motion? I've got Councillor Blanchard, and then we'll open this up for discussion. I will say that if you have questions about the specific project, I'm sure you can bring them forward, but Mr. Gopin is available online, but I'm sure a lot of them will probably be in the public presentation as well. But Council, any preliminary questions to help you with this first motion to bring it forward? Okay, seeing none then, so I will call the question. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. And
Aye, Your Worship.
once again, that is everybody, so that has been carried. So we'll have the public presentation on October 17th at 7 p.m. or immediately following the public hearing of objections. All right, that took us through motions. We are now into new business. There was kind of two items. One was Mr. Knopper circulated an email earlier today in regarding to the UMNB motions. I don't expect everyone to stay that late on Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend, but I will be there. And I just wanted to find out if anyone had any concern over any of the motions that are brought forward. I'd almost say if there's anything that you're opposed to, I'd really like to know. And as well, it doesn't necessarily have to be in this meeting. If you'd like to, between now and then, or even over the course of being at the UMNB conference, pull me aside. I just... we have one vote as a community, and I certainly would like to weigh in from all of you if there was any concerns over anything. So is there anything at this particular time? Otherwise, I'll just, doors open. Okay. Seeing none, so I'll take that as okay with me to proceed. If anything pops up, let me know. And then the second thing, which was brought up when we approved the agenda, is Councillor Blanchard brought up things on water testing, or water quality, rather. So Councillor Blanchard, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. So at the last Environmental Advisory Committee meeting, a number of items that were discussed, but one in particular, and one that I was asked to bring to council, had to do with the water quality at Katie's Cove. Not that there was an issue necessarily with the water quality, but more how would we answer the public if they asked us about the water quality at Katie's Cove, because currently, as I understand it, there's no real testing being done by the community. So my question, I guess, is what are the, and I know it's not our property, it's the Algonquins' property, so what are the requirements that exist under either provincial environment or health regulations with regards to water quality, beach, and things like that? Is it being followed? Like, I'm curious to know where does the responsibility lie? Is there any liability with the town, or is it's within town limits? So I'm just wondering if town staff could, if they could answer that off the top, great. If not, could they look into that for me and come back to council with the response?
Thank you, Councillor, and your worship, through you. So the testing itself, as you know, is actually through the Department of the Environment that would be responsible. We have in the past, and I'd have to check to see if we did this year, we usually do our own testing a little bit, but we're really looking for very specific things. I think like E. coli and other things that have closed some of the other beaches. The Katie's Cove, because it's saltwater, doesn't get algae blooms. I know that's always a concern, but it's not this blue-green algae because it has to be in freshwater, which I know you'd know, but for the public, the algae that's there is not the same stuff that you'd see in kind of the freshwater watersheds. We do some testing on other things, but nothing's ever come up. I know the murkiness of the water is always not taken well, but it's more of a sediment issue than it is of anything that's bad. We usually bring it up every year to, there's a local officer in St. Stephen that will test the water, but they've never had any concerns, and I think I'll follow up to see if they have tested it this year. I'm not sure. Usually we do, and I think I might have forgotten about it this year. But we've been testing it regularly every month for the last several years and never have had any outcomes come back that have any concerns.
Is there any follow-up question, Councillor Blanchard?
No, I think actually just at the end there, I was curious about the frequency of the testing, and you said we're testing monthly throughout the, is it throughout
Well,
the?
yeah, essentially we test during the swimming season.
Sure.
So July and August, because of the paddling club, maybe we'll have to expand it to June and September as well. But the Department of Health is aware of it, and I think they do some of their own testing annually, but I'd have to confirm that with them.
Okay. I'm just wondering, like, at some of the provincial beaches and things like that, and Parley Beach obviously has been in the news, and some of the others for E. coli issues and things like that with some of the cottages and things like that. Do you know the testing frequency in those places? Like, how often are they testing? I just wonder if
Now you're way
once
out
a
of
month,
my-
I get that we haven't really
Yeah.
seen anything, which is great. I'm just wondering about the recommended frequency of testing for things like that, in beaches or places that in the province with people are
Yeah.
swimming at. So
I'll have to follow up, and again, the testing we do is for our own internal purposes.
Okay.
It's not a requirement
Not a
like we
requirement.
have with our water and wastewater facilities.
Yep.
So I'll have to follow up with them just to see, like we've done it in the past for the community's sake to ensure that we're being responsible, but especially like you said with the problems, and I think even New River Beach was closed for a little while this year,
yeah.
that I'm sure the province is looking into these and keeping a sharp eye on all of these places, so I'll just confirm with the department exactly what the testing regime is going forward.
Thank you. Any other member of council on that one? All right, that will wrap up new business. We are now into question period. We did lose a few members of the audience this evening, but was there anything submitted online, Mr. Knopper?
Your Worship, I've received nothing online. You do have one member of the public, and it's Miss Mary Trimner. Miss Mary Trimner, if you wish to speak to council or have a question, please raise your hand now on your Zoom.
While we're waiting for that, I'm just going to see any question in the audience this evening. Nope. Okay, perfect. Looks like there is a hand.
Yeah, Ms. Trimner, you have the floor to council.
Thanks. Hi. Just wanted to say thanks, everybody. Thanks for going to the trouble of getting this on tonight. I don't know, I'm hoping everything will go well. I'm trying to build a house to live in that will be historically consistent with the look of the neighborhood, cedar shingle, Cape Cod. So I really appreciate you having whizzed through things. And interesting to learn about Katie's Cove, and good to hear the water quality is doing well. Thanks.
Perfect. Well, thank you for attending, and I note that Amanda Jackson was also in attendance earlier this evening as well in regards to support for the project. So thank you for being online. That will wrap up question period. We're now into Councillor and Deputy Mayor's comments. I guess normally I go last, but I guess I'll kick it off if you'll allow me. It's been a busy few days in the community. Thursday, there was the housing symposium that was out at Dominion Hill. I just wanted to recognize, he was on earlier, but Alexander Gopin for actually leading that process. There was a lot of developers at this council seen in attendance, and the more people that we put in the room and talk about how we can get this stuff done, the better we are. Council, there was a few sessions. It is recorded by our friends at CHCO. But the good news is a number of us are in Fredericton this weekend, and a couple of the sessions are similar, so you'll get an opportunity to see it live as well, as there's basically 2 housing workshops that are part of the UMB meetings. But for those of you that don't, I'm sure CHCO will share a link and make it available through Mr. Knopper or Mr. Spear. And then Truth and Reconciliation Day, I just wanted to recognize the community, but also Deputy Mayor Akaji for leading that process. It was good to see so many members of the community out to reflect and also to learn, because you spoke about things like Orange Shirt Day, and as well even educating people on various traditions and things like that. And I'm sure you're going to speak to it, but I just wanted to recognize that. And then the other thing, just in conclusion, is it was a vibrant weekend in St. Andrews. There was a lot of different activities and events. I saw Councillor Neal and Councillor Blanchard out, a number of other members of council, and it's just good. Those events are what really keeps this a fun area to live. And I know that we've got the tall ship coming, and as well we have Indulge just around the corner. But this weekend you could see the town was still buzzing, which was really good to see. So at this point I'll pass it over to, actually I should recognize I saw probably Vicky Hogarth 15 times this weekend running from event to event. So that's how I know it's busy. But appreciate all the coverage as well. So any member of council have anything that they'd like to say? Oh, we'll go to Councillor Heenan, then to you. We'll let you with the seniority as Deputy Mayor go last. Councillor Heenan.
Actually, Brad, you stole my thunder, but I wanted to say a big shout out to Vicky for all the work she does for the town. It's really, truly amazing that she's everywhere. And a big thank you. She did a beautiful job on the Truth and Reconciliation Day, and I think we should be proud. Thank you, Your Worship and Council, and Vicky.
Perfect. And Patrick's there too.
And Patrick.
I've been with Vicky, and they just said your camera guy. His name's Patrick. He's a big part of it. He's the one that edits it after too, so he has to be there plus edit it. But yeah, big thanks to Vicky and Patrick. Thank you very much, Councillor Heenan. Deputy Mayor Akaji, you had your hand as well.
Thank you, Your Worship, Councillor Heenan and fellow councillors. I do want to thank the mayor because I filled in at the affirmation celebration that happened on September 25th at the Wesley United Church. Congratulations to them to include everybody in their worship service and for them to complete the course. So congratulations. Then before that, I attended the Platinum Jubilee, Queen's Jubilee Awards when the mayor was unable to attend. I really liked him taking the weekend off because it made my weekend busy, but I enjoyed it. It was lovely, and Vicky and Patrick and CHCO-TV received one of the Platinum Awards, as did our Archdeacon Matheson. There were many that, I'm going to miss somebody, but there were many awards presented for people in communities who that are doing things in the background that we might not necessarily see, and they were given these platinum awards, and it was nice to see, and quite a variety of people from old to young. And then, as the mayor said, on September 30th, we had Truth and Reconciliation, and I'd be amiss if I didn't thank Judith Moses, who is my sister in crime with this. We did it together, and it went off beautifully. We were able to get a couple of drums and to drum around. The walk is supposed to be in silence, and I got a few little quips that it wasn't in silence, but that's, it's nice to know those things because I'm not everywhere on that day, although I'd like to be, but, or in that vigil that we had, and so it's nice to know. And then for next year, we know Paul has brought a few things up to me as well. So when we do it next year, hopefully we will iron out the little bugs that we have. But I think overall, I want to thank the people, but I want to thank counselors, Heenan, Neil, Gumashell. I know Mr. Blanchard was away, or Councillor Blanchard was away, and the mayor, and Councillor Hurdle, who's away tonight. But your support through these Indigenous things is very important and very close to my heart. So I thank you very much for always supporting my Indigenous background. And now with the RCAF, my father, he mentioned it, Motorcycle Charlie was his nickname, and he worked over in Penfield repairing those aircraft or machines, whatever. He was a great mechanic, and so they still remember him, and I'm honored that the fellow who gave the presentation did a historic background on my father, so it was really good to meet him tonight. So thank you very much. And I have one thing to say is Sisters in Spirit. We don't hear much about it. Sisters in Spirit is, and I want to read it because I don't want to miss anything, but each year, family members, Indigenous community members, and concerned citizens gather for a vigil on October the 4th to honor the memory of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Vigils take place in many communities across Canada as well as internationally. These gatherings, which have taken place for over 15 years, raise awareness and support families who have lost a loved one. So the request from the Sisters in Spirit is that you light a candle in your home, place it in your window on October the 4th, and remember these people. It is mostly on the highway of tears. So a lot of them go missing, and they are murdered, and they are mostly Indigenous women and girls. So, and because of Truth and Reconciliation, I think we sometimes overlook that vigil. I want to thank Paul for having the banner put up that I obtained from New Brunswick Community College. So you'll see it. It's up, and tomorrow night, if you could just put a candle in your window, it would be nice to remember them. If you've ever lost anybody, you know what it's like, and they have lost a family member. If you want to hear music from it, it's on, YouTube, and you can, Sisters in Spirit, there are a lot of good songs that they have written about Sisters in Spirit. And the last thing I want to say is happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Take care. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, wherever you're traveling to or from, that you have a great Thanksgiving with your family, and to be thankful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Akaji, for again drawing awareness to that, as that is something that, to your point, we don't hear about as often, so thank you. Any other member of council? Okay. So at this point, we are going to require closed session. So as per Local Governance Act, Section 68(1)C and Section 68(1)J, I'll be looking for a mover to go into closed session. Councillor Blanchard, seconded by Councillor Gumashell. All in favor of going to closed session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye, Your Worship.
That is everybody. We are in closed session. We'll just give a minute to shut everything down. Thank you for attending and
Recording
being on.
stopped.